Okay, so now the Pizza Hut's doing well. You're going through this self-examination. You're at the peak of all things. And what?
The company is going broke. And I had about $500 million in debt with about 32 banks, with all kinds of entanglement with covenants and everything. And I hired Goldman Sachs come in and keep me away from the bankers so I could put things back together again. And the price was $8 million. After a couple of months, they met with me and said, this company can't be saved by anybody in it. If it's going to be saved, you got to get somebody with a lot of CEO experience. And I said, listen, nobody understands this company better than me. I've turned it around before. If anybody can do it, I can. And it may take a while, but I can do it. I'm willing to do it. And they said, well, we don't agree. So we settled on giving them $5 million, paid them off, which I couldn't afford. And then say a year and a half later, the most profitable year we ever had.
Wow.
About 2 or 3 years.
And that was because you took the helm again and just drove it right back to where you needed to.
Yeah, I just focused. I got rid of I got rid of the tires. I got rid of the whole. I already started again. I already got rid of the toys. Thank God. Mm-hmm. And then the guy was from New York. The guy from Goldman Sachs. He came out to see me and he said, so I stopped in and see. And by this time, I think it's '94. We virtually no debt. We're opening stores again. Our sales is climbing. We're taking over the leadership in the delivery business from Pizza Hut. And he said, you know, all my years on Wall Street, I've never seen such a complete and dramatic turnaround.
Wow.
And I said, well, you remember what you told me?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm summarizing this. You reestablish your priorities. You got rid of distractions, and you had laser focus. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened.
I didn't read the paper. I didn't watch TV. I just worked.
You just went to work.
And
yeah. I tell you.
I had to settle a lot of lawsuits. Franchisees are suing us left and right because.
Yeah, that's a hard time when you're going through that sort of thing.
Well, there's a class action lawsuit from franchisees.
Wow.
And I trust. And I had a $85 million judgment punitive damages on a fender bender.
On a fender bender? $85 million?
Second largest punitive damage in history. General Motors had one larger.
How did that even come about? I mean, people are hearing that saying, how does somebody get $85 million for a fender bender?
It had a lot to do with the 30-minute guarantee and all the publicity about that we're getting from the media that were causing people to drive fast because we don't have time for the guarantee.
Wow. Wow.
And this was a fender bender, and the woman on the other car was a drug addict. And we had insurance. This was a franchisee. They had to have insurance, and we had a blanket to cover it, up to the millions of dollars. Nothing like
$85 million.
No.
I think people are shocked by that. They that when you run a company, you really understand how the law can really be short on the justice side, and you recognize that it's about who can get one over on somebody else. And I think
it was a runaway jury, and it was all the pulling on this guy who's running rush hour, forcing people to
You're the least protected species on planet Earth.
And it's in Missouri, and the Missouri law, insurance cannot cover punitive damages.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, so now you have to recover from all these things while you're rebuilding this, and those are emotional too. I mean, I just know as a business owner, there's a difference. But if you're saying something about your company, it's a little bit like saying something about your family. I mean, this is something you've poured your heart into, and the culture. Okay, so now you go through that, and what's the distance between that and when you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the most philanthropic guy, and I'm going to build something long-lasting and real to influence people, which is?
Well, that was a lot of what I was doing in the 80s. Mm-hmm. I started the Goddess in the 80s. I had a foundation, and I was given, I had a staff that would go through, because I was getting unbelievable number of requests.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that, and I wanted to do more of that. And then at the late 80s, I put the company up for sale. And that was part of the problem. I stepped aside and fell apart. And so I had to come back in and straighten it out.
And make it happen.
Yeah.
And so this is the time that you were building churches across the world and helping out with all sorts of different types of things, right?
Cathedral Monaghan.
Yeah. The university, Ave Maria University, the law school, things started initially in Michigan. Then, you build an entire town. Walk us through what made you say, this is where I want to put my money.
Well, I wanted to help the church in the best way possible. Felt this wasn't my money. I was fortunate. And I want to make sure I meet the pearly gate. I did my due diligence and did what was best. I did a lot of research on what's the best thing I can do for the church and do the most good to save souls. And I narrowed it down to education and communications.
So I want to, this is such a important part of your story. I want to go back though, because there's something interesting, I think, for people to understand. You were simultaneously building things like Legatus, a great organization for Catholic executives to help influence them and to shape and form them and have good, fraternity and camaraderie. You were doing all sorts of charitable things. So all of these good things were happening. You were born and raised in this Catholic environment. So you stayed close to God. You were praying your rosaries, going to Mass. But you still, though, when you read C.S. Lewis, you had a deeper conversion. So it's like, I think a lot of people are confused about that. They think people go from being just one way to entirely flipping. You already had your faith in order, but you recognized there was something still there that needed to go further. Did that accelerate?
Yeah, well, what I was doing was walking the tightrope.
Okay.
I guess what I really wanted to be was a billionaire saint. I wanted to be both. And I didn't really want to, I justified all the toys. Airplanes, you could justify time as money. I used the yachts for incentives for our franchisees and the lodge up north. And I had a justification. I'm good at.
Yeah, don't tell me there's anything wrong with airplanes. Not quite yet.
Okay. That's the thing I miss the most. Yeah. Especially with the security and everything. And I started giving more and more money to the church. And I had, before the crash, I built the Cathedral Monaghan. It was a communist country then. I started the first Catholic radio station in the United States.
Yes.
And then I financed people to build more, and then I provide all the programming. We're still doing the programming today. We provide free programming for over 300 and some Catholic radio stations. And I started the Sisters of Mary Mother Eucharist. I built them a mother house and some schools, and some private Catholic schools. And I helped with their build a new high school for Catholic high school in Ann Arbor. I was doing things like that. And so I'm starting to do that again in the 90s after things were getting better. And the bank covenant said you can't give more than 10% of your profits to charity. But that was becoming meaningless because I think when they sold the company, I had $44 million in debt, and I could have paid that off immediately, the cash.